Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vegan Proteins, Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is 𝐬𝐝𝐾𝐭.
And I'm Danny.
And this is episode 119.
So you may notice that 𝐬𝐝𝐾 sounds a little bit different on this podcast than some of our previous podcasts.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
𝐬𝐝𝐾 has no front teeth right now.
And Danny has all kinds of nicknames for me right now, not a single one of which I appreciate.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
I don't think it's endearing at all.
We told Daisy, who is 6 and, losing all of her baby teeth right now, that 𝐬𝐾𝐾 went to get surgery to look like her. So it is very, very cute, and it's just temporary. You want to give people a little backstory about why you suddenly have no front teeth?
Sure, why not? There's nothing more fun than a traumatic experience than getting to relive a traumatic experience. That's all right. It's all over, right? Almost. I have no front teeth because, I got hit by a taxi cab. I was working from early in the morning till late at night.
20 years ago. Let's add this. 20 years ago, you got hit by a taxi cab.
Oh, I had all the energy in the world. I woke up at 7 a.m., rode my bike into Manhattan, came home at like 11 at night, riding my bike home from Manhattan. I was just tired, and I misjudged the road, and long story short, a taxi cab hit me, and then my face hit the pavement, and I lost my teeth. Well, that's not entirely true. My teeth got barely damaged, but we tried to preserve them. But now they had to get extracted because they're gone. It's just been too much bone loss up there.
So now this is like step 1 of getting what are they called? Implants made. So step 1 is you had to remove the old tooth. Then it's got to heal. Then put metal posts in where those teeth were. Then that's got to heal. Then they can build the new teeth on it.
Yes, Danny's speculating that the second surgery will be just as bad as the first, but I gotta say, pulling the teeth out was kind of painful.
I can only imagine. But the only reason we're even mentioning this is because you are going to be able to hear it in these podcasts that 𝐬𝐾𝐾 sounds a little bit different, and that's what's going on.
Well, hopefully when they put the other teeth in, I'll sound normal, but for now we're waiting for those temporaries to arrive, like something that's just more to make sure that I don't have this speech impediment, which, nobody can hear it, right?
Anyway, the show must go on, as they say. So what else do we have going on? Well, we just started our first ever 16-week muscle building challenge. That just kicked off yesterday on the day that we're recording this. And so exciting. We have 24 people doing this challenge this time. And I'm so excited because it is so different than the challenges we've done in the past that were specifically fat loss. This one is specifically making them gains, and really, really excited about it.
I don't know if you were as worried as me, but there's always that fear that no one's going to show up, especially when it comes to muscle building, because the fitness industry constantly sells fat loss.
Yes.
And so, it's like the chicken and egg syndrome. Do people want it, or is the fitness industry pushing it because it's easier to commit to, right? But it's like...
No, people want it. Way, a long time ago. Like, over 10 years ago, I used to run a fat loss challenge and a muscle building challenge, like, simultaneously, and it would always be like 4 times as many people in fat loss as muscle building every single time. So that's why it's taken us so long to get this one out. I just didn't think there would be that much of a demand for it, but I guess people are ready. Maybe our message of like quit freaking dieting all the time is getting through. So I'm pumped. Really
Same.
Excited.
And I truly hope that this takes off and that people continue to come back, because if you ain't building muscle, you ain't going to build the body you're looking for. No amount of fat loss is going to change that. No amount of going to the gym is going to change that. You really have to focus and commit to a program.
Yeah. No, but sometimes you'll get somebody that's like, well, I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. And it's like, don't worry. That's not going to happen by accident. It's never happened to anybody by accident that they ended up looking like that. It took years and years of dedicated hard work. But anyway, we're not going off on that tangent today.
Before we get into today's topic, we'll be at this weekend. If you're in the New England area, come visit us. We'll have a booth at the New England Veg Fest at the DCU Center, and we're going to be speaking.
Yes, at the what was the Worcester Veg Fest. Should be a blast. One of our favorite veg fests in the entire country. So we will be there. But what are we talking about today, Giacomo? Do you even know? Do you know what we're talking about today?
Grit.
Grit. Yeah. This is a topic that I care about a lot. I think it is like the secret sauce that so many people are missing. And I want to talk more about it today.
Well, when you hear the word grit, what comes to mind for you, Danny?
What comes to mind? Success. That is literally the key to success. It is the only key to success. It is the biggest key to success, is how gritty someone is. So I guess a better question is not what comes to my mind, but what is grit? Grit is the perseverance of effort and passion for a long-term goal. So grit is a combination of intense perseverance and passion together.
And how does one tap into that kind of mentality?
Oh, we are so far from that part of the podcast. That's the end. First, let's talk about what grit is and why it even matters at all.
Well, when I think of grit, I think of holding out for instant gratification and something that just feels good and is rewarding. So when I think of someone who's gritty, I think of someone who's willing to go through trials and tribulations and all kinds of things and all kinds of adversity, because they realize that that is just what it takes to make something truly amazing happen. Life will smack you in the face. The thing that you're going after you're going to have all kinds of hurdles, obstacles, sometimes like just hard stops. But if you are gritty enough, if you have enough tenacity, that your passion will be realized because you pushed forward. Like you found a way through pretty much anything because you were a gritty person.
Yeah, I mean, to me, another way of saying grit is mental toughness. That's another way to think about it. If people don't like that word, I happen to love that word. The cool thing about grit is it's not cognitive and it's not built in, which basically means that it is something that you can learn, which I think is so, so important. Grit is not talent. Grit is what bridges the gap between raw talent and success. So obviously, if somebody is just born talented at something, they have a leg up, right? You know, if someone is born with a high IQ, we think they just have a leg up. They are starting further along the path than everybody else. But there have actually been a lot of studies done on this and done on grit specifically. And what they have found is people that have higher grit are more likely to succeed. It is a higher indicator of success than even something like IQ. So here are some of the studies that they've done on grit specifically. They studied West Point Academy cadets. So this is like the top military school in the country. Like to even get in, you have to be pretty elite in the first place. They studied the people who got in to see who would get through the first, it's not basic training, but it's like their first major phase of training that they cannot continue unless they pass this. The people who scored highest in terms of their grit were 60% more likely to succeed than people who scored lower on the grit scale, which we'll get to what the grit scale is in a minute. They studied Ivy League students, and people who had more grit had higher GPAs than people who were technically smarter than them. People who had higher IQs, people who scored higher on the SATs in Ivy League schools. If you had more grit, you could outperform those people, even if you were technically not as smart. And they also did studies on the National Spelling Bee, you know, the kids' spelling bee, and the kids that scored higher on the grit scale did better than the other kids in the competition that had higher IQs than them. So, like, grit is the thing. It is the secret sauce. Like, that's really what I think. It is the price of admission for success is grit.
So my questions that come to mind are, can grit be developed in someone who has had to face adversity? And can grit be developed in someone who, so there is a kind of grit that can be developed because someone has faced adversity, right? And they overcome. And then there's a kind of grit that can be developed because someone wants something really bad, or just bred in them, I should say. That's what I was looking to say. So you have someone who faces adversity, and you have someone who, from outside influence, whether it's family, friends, strangers, it was bred in them, so to speak. You know what I mean? And then we have what you're talking about, where you can actually develop it in yourself.
Well, I think
regardless.
all of that would be, nobody's born with it. It's not like blue eyes and brown hair. Like, you're not born with grit. You are taught it. It is learned. You can actually teach kids to have this quality. And I would encourage anybody with kids to be trying to encourage this based on what we know about how it will equate to better success later in life. Like, there's so many reasons why this is a quality that should be fostered in kids. But yes, you can also kind of learn it on your own. And adversity is a really great way to do that. So I guess I would ask, like, first, do you consider yourself to be a gritty person?
Right. Ask yourself that.
No. I'm asking you, 𝐬𝐿_𝐾𝐭. Do you consider yourself to be a gritty person?
I do. I consider myself to have been taught to be a gritty person from a very young age. I've considered myself to have faced adversities and became a grittier person because of it.
So tell me some of the, like, lower points of your life. Like, what are some things that you've faced that you have had to employ these kind of skills in order to get through?
Well, academically, I was pushed extremely hard by my family, and I think it was also just being a product of my environment in a city of 10 million, where if you want to be at the top, you got to compete against 10 million people. I was pushed. I was pushed and I was pushed. I went to a talented school. They pushed me harder. Standardized testing, they pushed me for that. Yes, I had a leg up in terms of resources by going to a Catholic school that was just had a stupid amount of wealth attached to everything they did, but they also pushed me really hard too. So, all along my path through academia, I was pushed mercilessly. And then outside of school, I was pushed really hard to score well enough when I graduated with a degree in finance to make it in the job market after September 11th, when there was nothing out there. So there were risky jobs that had high reward and high payoff, like being a day trader, for example, but the barrier to entry was great. Like, you had to pass a test that the majority of people failed. And I passed it with flying colors, which was like, the proctor was like floored. She was like, "Do you really want to turn this in that fast?" I'm like, "Run it." And she ran it, and that thing was like off the charts. And she's like, "Well, I'll be damned, you passed." So I think in those ways, adversities aside, in adulthood, I was pushed really, really hard throughout schooling.
Do you think that grit is from being pushed?
Not necessarily, but I mean, I do feel I was motivated by things around me, my environment, my teachers, my family, et cetera, to like make something of myself because no one else was going to do it for me. It's kind of hard to have that conversation when you come from a privileged place, but I do think that in a lot of ways I was pushed, privileges aside.
Interesting. Because when I think about, I guess I just think of it very differently than that. I mean, certainly there are people that can, I guess, encourage that. Like I just said, you can like kind of foster it in children. So I also consider myself to be a very gritty, persistent, stubborn SOB, where I just oftentimes, for better or worse, and yes, I do think you can take this too far, but for better or worse, like, failure is not an option for me in like almost anything that I do. And you could see how you could take that too far and it could be problematic unto itself. But when I was younger, I guess the way that these qualities came to be in me was like born of failure. Like, this feeling of failure, these low points, feeling like I was behind my peers in some way, made it so that I determined at a very young age, in varying capacities, that no, I was not going to fail, and used these moments of perceived failure as like absolute springboards to success. Like rather than sitting there and wallowing in whatever failure I thought I was going through at that moment and just being like, oh, this is the end. I suck at this. I'm never going to do this again. I would like kind of get mad a little bit and be like, no, that is not how this part ends. Like, what can we take from this? How am I going to turn this around right now? And I mean, maybe there were a couple of people in my life that kind of encouraged that, but for the most part, I felt like that was pretty internal. It wasn't because other people were pushing me, because quite frankly, nobody even gave a shit whether or not I succeeded or not, for the most part. So, I don't know. I think to me, that's part of what grit is. It's like finding yourself at these really low points and deciding like, no, this does not end here. This will have a different outcome. And I am going to see that through.
Oh, sure. I have a lot of personal moments that are not podcast appropriate for me. I don't feel like sharing them, but for sure, I've faced times like that in my life where I look back and I'm like, this could have went the exact opposite direction, but like you, failure was not an option. And I was like, I'm going to find a way. Right? And so, yeah, no, I feel you there, Danny.
I think about some of the people that I look up to, and a lot of their stories are similar. Like, you know, it very, very Rocky, very Rocky movie where it's like, just keep hitting me like he's down on the floor, but no, he's going to get up and he's going to win. I think that's why we like movies like Rocky so much, is because they're kind of the underdog and they find a way to use that pain, that hardship, to turn it into a massive success story when kind of nobody expected that from this person. I don't know. I think that's part of the reason why everyone loves an underdog, because for an underdog to be successful, they have to be just gritty as hell.
Hey listeners, we hope you've been enjoying this episode, and we appreciate your love of all things vegan fitness. For those of you who want even more support on your vegan fitness journey, check out our Muscles by Brussels community and become a member. By joining the team, you are one of our exclusive VIPs. As a member, you'll find over 200 macro-friendly, high-protein recipes that can meet any of your meal planning needs. You'll also receive training programs that update monthly. This training has progressive overload built into it, so you can be sure if you're following the program, you are making progress. All of this and more is located inside our VeganProteins members-only app. As a Muscles by Brussels member, you'll unlock bonus courses, challenges, and more every month. You'll also be invited to our live Zoom video calls, which happen 2 times a month, and are absolute gold to those who show up. And if you can't make the calls, don't worry, you have the opportunity to email us whenever you want. You'll receive a video response to all of your questions from one of the coaches here at VeganProteins every time you message us. Members also receive 40% off many of our other services. And of course, our private community of like-minded individuals is like no other. Best of all, you can try this membership out for a full month at no cost to you with this special offer for our listeners only, because we appreciate and want to fully support you. Use the link in our show notes to sign up for your free trial today. We hope to see you on our next live coaching call.
So let's talk about the grit scale. Hey, you can test yourself. You can test yourself to see how gritty you are. I'm going to read the questions here. There are 10 questions. So I'm going to ask you these 10 questions, and you can rank them 1 through 5, being I don't identify with this at all, I identify with this a very little bit, I neither identify or don't identify with this, I identify with this quite a lot, or this is 100% me. 1 through 5. So you give yourself a score for each of these questions here, 1 through 5, and then we total it up at the end. 1. New ideas and projects sometimes distract me from previous ones. Number 2. Setbacks don't discourage me. I don't give up easily. Number 3. I often set a goal, but later choose to pursue a different one. Number 4. I am a hard worker. Number 5. I have difficulty maintaining my focus on projects that take more than a few months to complete. Number 6, I finish whatever I begin. Number 7, my interests change from year to year. Number 8, I am diligent. I never give up. Number 9, I have been obsessed with a certain idea or project for a short time, but later lost interest. Number 10, I have overcome setbacks to conquer an important challenge. So you can pause that, rewind it, make sure you have your total. When you are totaling this up, if you got a score of 10, you have very little grit. 20, still not great. 30, you're kind of in the middle. You're not gritty, but you're also not gritty. 40 is pretty high and 50 is super high. So that just gives you an idea of, kind of where you fall along this scale. And remember, with certain things, this can change. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But that is a good place to start. And one of the things we didn't talk about that pops up on this quiz is like not getting distracted from your goal, right? When you have a lot of grit, you have like laser-like focus on what you are trying to achieve. You're not getting shiny object syndrome every 5 minutes while you're trying to achieve it. Like, ooh, new fun thing. Let me go do that instead. Ooh, new fun thing. Let me go do that instead. Like, you know what you want and you are working towards it. I struggle with this sometimes because I am kind of easily distracted. But my goal still usually does remain my goal. And because I struggle with this, I am constantly like writing down what my goal is, why it matters, dates that I want XYZ things done by, why I'm not going to give up on it. So it's my own little thing there.
Well, I do feel like brain dumps are important, and I feel like talking to others about what you want is also important. So I don't think anyone can be a master of their own whatever through grit, through just being a strong-minded person. So what you do, I do stuff like that too. Like sometimes when and it's happening to me right now, I feel like I'm working towards something in such a ridiculously gritty fashion because we have big projects that I'm realizing my basic needs are not being met. So I'm writing them down.
Again, like that's kind of what I was getting at before. Like you can take this too far. It can bite you in the ass if you're not careful. I was actually reading quite a bit about that earlier, but that's for another time. Here, we're going to lean into being more gritty. But yeah, you can take it too far. Mm-hmm. So that's a very smart move right there.
Yeah.
So I think another important thing to think about is we talked about like when you're low, right? Overcoming those lows. But what I don't feel like that is just pretending that the bad thing didn't happen. Like pretending that the failure, whatever that is, didn't actually happen. Like I think it's really important to kind of embrace the suck. Like, yeah, what you're going through sucks. And doesn't that hurt? Like, isn't that uncomfortable? Don't you like not want to deal with that again? Like that is a great time when you're in the middle of that to really make that decision that you will not be staying here. You will be moving forward. But you can't decide, oh, I'm not doing this anymore if you can't even face the fact that what you're going through is not what you want to be going through.
Yeah. So are you suggesting that facing something head on and feeling that pain is going to help you become grittier?
I think so. Yeah. I see a lot of people go through tough stuff with like their fingers in their ears and their hands over their eyes, just pretending, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. I'm fine. And that, I get it. It's like a defense mechanism, but it's not actually very helpful for growth.
Yeah. I mean, on the other side of the token, to play devil's advocate here, sometimes you need a little bit of time or space to process something that's a bit too painful, that it puts you in a state of shock where you can't communicate or you can't think about what's going on. You know what I mean?
I guess.
I think so. I think, but I also, like, to your point, I do feel like that's very important to really know what you're going through, to be able to process it too, if nothing else, right? How are you going to come up with solutions? How are you going to know what your scenario is? How are you going to know what you have to do to persevere if you don't even know what you're going through.
Right. Like, how do you know what you want if you can't sit there and think really hard about what you don't want? And if you are in that, like if you are in the middle of that, wow, this sucks. This is definitely not what I want. Like, what an awesome opportunity that is to really take the time to soak in the, like, I do not want this. This is not what I want. A lot of times we can imagine like what failure might look like or feel like, or things we don't want to happen. But man, the opportunity to actually feel those things can really help solidify just how much we don't want that. You want to talk about finding your why? Feeling that pain and deciding you don't want to do that again? That's a pretty solid why. So there are 5 characteristics of grit. Let's talk about them. 1, perseverance. Obviously, I think that one's pretty clear. Like, you just do not give up. 2, resilience. This is your ability to bounce back from adversity. It helps you better manage stress, and it just helps you recover more quickly from inevitable challenges that are going to pop up along the way. 3 is courage. So that is the courage to fail. This one is hard. This is the ability to take on things that kind of scare the crap out of you and just do it anyway, knowing that you might not succeed right out of the gate. 4 is passion. You have to feel passionate about this. Why does this matter to you? And 5 is conscientiousness. So this is usually when we think of conscientiousness, we think about like rule following and being courteous to others, but in this context, conscientiousness more means like planning and following through on your commitments. So I've talked about this in other podcasts, like confidence. We talk about confidence and how to build confidence. Confidence comes from your ability to follow through on the things you say you are going to do. So confidence and success to me are a very chicken and egg scenario, because are you more confident because you're successful, or are you more successful because you are more confident? I don't know, but they are definitely correlated. So conscientiousness helps build confidence, which is great. So, okay, here's the question Giacomo had at the very beginning, because Giacomo always asks the final question at the very beginning of the podcast.
I was the kind of kid that read the ending in a book when I picked it up before I read it. But I still read the book, but I needed to read the ending first.
Giacomo is he's a human cliff note. So how do you develop grit? How do you develop these characteristics? I want to hear Giacomo's first. I have a list. Do you have a list?
No, you came to this podcast armed with all kinds of research, and my portion of this podcast is going to be a little more conversational, which is fine. But I can tell you what it used to be and what I think that it is absolutely not. And it's all like that motivational junkie kind of stuff. You can do this. You can do that. You know what? Hey, I'm kind of tired of knocking that stuff, because sometimes it's nice to get like a little bit juiced up, if you will. And some of those motivational speakers and people are just like truly amazing creatures. Like, they are just incredible humans. They have a lot of valuable information. But sometimes just someone just getting you hyped up, like if you ask me, you can get addicted to that. And you ain't going nowhere. And what a tragic waste of time. If you take those people and you pay attention to what they're saying and how they're saying it, and how they have found their own success, then I think you can actually take some good out of it. You know what I mean? As opposed to just listening to it and like feeling good.
Yes.
You know, we're in the age of so much information where you could just like pull something up and just feel good because you feel like you're soaking in something you want to soak in. But if you really want to develop your grit, find others who have that mental toughness, and don't just listen to their story. Learn how they develop that mental toughness. I mean, their stories suck you in, but what keeps you there is learning what they do and how they do it. You know, like James Cleary, like, oh yeah, you know.
James Clear.
Not to be confused with James Clear. He's not a real person. He has a crazy story. I don't remember his story at all. I mean, I remember it being pretty cool, some of his backstory, but like his information is sound, like how he stacks habits and how he put it out there. You know what I mean? So stuff like that, really.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I think that people can absolutely become like motivation junkies where yes, I mean I love me a good motivational speech from time to time. I really, really do. But if that's all it is, if there's nothing behind it to actually back it up, like who cares? If you can't take that motivated feeling and go like turn it into work somehow, who cares?
And if you can't continue to do that work tirelessly when there's nothing left but the work in front of you and you can't feel a damned thing and your mind is so worn that you can barely think straight, if you can't keep doing that work after the fact, then that's when you check yourself because you're not. And that's when you write that piece on that piece of paper or whatever and be like, these are the things I got to do and I got to keep doing it. And as much as that feels like beating your head up against a wall, you keep doing it and then eventually on the other side is what you were looking for.
So here's what I got for my list of ways. So I have like big overarching themes of how to develop grit, but I also have some like practical, like do this tips as well. So the first big one is, find your passion. Like it has to be something that you're passionate about. Don't expect to find this high level of grit in something that like, frankly, you don't care about. So that I think is very important. 2, probably the most important step I would say is to practice deliberately. Deliberately practice. This doesn't mean that you have to put in hours and hours and hours of practice every day, but it does mean you have to do something very, very consistently. For writers and artists, this can be sitting down and writing a page. The page could be trash, but you're sitting down and actually writing it every single day. It can be, getting your workout in every day or making sure you eat a healthy breakfast every day or forcing yourself to not go on the internet first thing in the morning when you wake up. Like all of these things are practice to help you get better at other things.
So discipline, is that what you're getting at, Danny?
Yes. Yeah. Discipline is part of it. The discipline to practice, I would say. 3, if you can find a greater purpose to tie to what it is that you're doing, you are going to be more motivated to keep going. In the fitness world, there's a lot of people who want to lose 10 pounds or 20 pounds and they want to look better on the beach, and that's fine. Like, not knocking anybody's aesthetic goals. I've had aesthetic goals before. But if you can tie it to something that means more than that, like I want to role model to my kids what it means to be a healthier person, or I want to improve my blood work so that I can live longer, more vivacious years into old age. Like those are bigger reasons than just like, yeah, I would like to see what a six-pack looks like. Like which one of those sounds more motivating? You know what I mean? Or even like, I want to show the world what is possible as a vegan athlete. For years, that was our entire reason behind starting to do this in the first place. It wasn't just to like look a certain way or be a certain kind of athlete. It was to show what was possible as a natural vegan athlete, to hopefully encourage other people to do the same, because animal suffering was something that we cared so much about. I mean, still care so much about, but you get the point. Number 4 is give yourself time. Like, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. You're not just going to 180 your personality overnight. That's fine. Build it up slowly. And number 5 is to immerse yourself in a kind of gritty culture. So if you are surrounded by a bunch of marshmallows who never push themselves to do anything, you are going to have a harder time doing that. But if you are surrounded, whether virtually or literally, by people who are kind of constantly pushing the limits for themselves, you are going to feel more empowered to try to do something similar.
Very much so. Yeah, I think the circles you surround yourself with are incredibly important.
That's our next podcast,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
Yep.
But yeah, who was it? I was talking to my mom the other day. She was going to take a class on something. And I was like, oh, are you excited? And she was like, I might be a little bit out of my league. Like, a lot of these people that are in this class are going to know a lot more about this than I do. And I said, like, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Like, you do always want to be surrounded by people who are a little bit further along than you, because it is motivating and inspiring in whatever arena that is.
Yeah. No matter how, you can't be an expert in everything. There's always going to be someone in your room that's smarter than you at something. So the idea is to go in there without an ego, and everyone can get something out of it when you're in a group of people who are doing something and you feel a little intimidated or out of your league, so to speak.
So what are some really practical, I am all about practical tips to improve your grit? Got any ideas?
Practical tips to improve your grit. I think the discipline thing is, to me, I can't think of anything more important than that. Writing out what you want to practice through discipline, and then being disciplined. And just, it's non-negotiable. So here's what I could tell you after seeing some pretty incredible things come true last year that meant something to only me, pretty much. At some point, when you're doing something that is so out of the ordinary and so risky and so challenging, at some point, every single thing and every single person in your universe is going to have some sort of reason and some sort of thing to say about it, and some sort of judgment telling you, look, whatever you're doing, you ain't doing it right, and you got to stop. And it's up to you to keep going. Because if you don't go where you got to go to get something done, when you don't do it, everybody else, when you're done being mad at them for being worried about you or whatever, you're only going to look back at yourself and you'd be like, damn, I could have done this and there was nothing stopping me and I had no one to blame but myself. At some point, when you do something that is that unfathomable and it's taking that much out of you and everything and everyone around you, every sign, every indication in the entire world is going to come at you and be like, just stop, just stop. And you know what? There is going to be a lot of course correcting and a lot to look back on and be like, damn, I got a lot more work to still do because this thing was kind of selfish. But you have to keep going. You absolutely have to keep going, no matter what. That's how I feel.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That was oddly specific. And I have thoughts that differ with yours, but I will. Different time. So here's my tips, like practical day-to-day tips. Pretty much anytime you feel resistance to doing something, that's a pretty good time to lean in. And this is a time to practice improving your grit. This is an opportunity for grit when you're like, ugh, I don't feel like doing this. Every time you think ugh, that feeling, just like, oh, I don't want to go load up the dishwasher. Ugh, I don't want to do this particular exercise. Ugh, I don't want to do the last set. Like, oh boy, that's an opportunity for grit right there. And that is literally how I think about it all the time now. Anytime I don't want to do something, that doesn't mean I'm always successful, but I do always think this is an opportunity for me to grow and do better. So, some examples. Doing that exercise that you hate, that exercise that you know is good for you, that you know is going to make you a better athlete, that you know you're not very good at. And that means you should be doing more of it. Do that exercise. And why is that exercise Bulgarian split squats? Like, I know you all thought it. That's the exercise. Do Bulgarian split squats. Get an extra rep. Like at the end of your set, when you've done the 12 reps or whatever that you need to do, can you squeeze out a 13? That's gritty, like to be able to do that. Or when you know you're doing 30 minutes of cardio and you're at 30 minutes, can you do 32? Like that extra 2 minutes? That's money in the bank. in terms of developing this particular skill. This is a big one. Taking criticism. Being able to take criticism without immediately getting like angry or defensive is so hard. It's so hard because as soon as we hear criticism, everything in our brain is like, danger, Will Robinson, and like you want to fight back immediately, but don't. Like, that's a good time to practice trying to hear what the other person is saying and seeing if you can get there. Like, is it valid? Can you actually work on it? That's a big way to practice grit. Another way would be like asking for something, even if you think the answer is probably going to be no. This is one of my biggest struggles. I don't like to ask for things because I don't handle no very well. Also because I just expect the answer to be no all of the time. So a lot of times I just don't ask, but like you get nothing that you don't ask for. The answer is always no if you don't ask. So practice asking, even if it's scary. Cold showers. You won't catch me doing this, but that could be a good way. Like, does anything sound more unpleasant than that? No. Cold showers can be a good way to just develop that, like, mental toughness to get through it. It's not my thing, but it'll do the trick. It fits the bill. Owning your shit is another huge one, I think. We are all human. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes every single day. Owning that, being like, wow, I made a mistake. Oops, let me work on this. That is tough. That's not a sign of weakness to admit that you screwed up. That is actually a sign of strength, confidence, security, and quite frankly, it's the only way you can grow. But it's not easy. So, that's a big one. Celebrating mistakes. Like recognizing, not just recognizing when you made mistakes. Certain mistakes actually deserve celebration because guess what? You just found a new way that doesn't work. And now you don't have to wonder about that anymore. You can do something else. So it's worth like actually appreciating some of the mistakes that we make because we can cross that off the list for the future. And basically the last one is just whatever it is that you're working towards. Follow through. Follow through on what you said you were going to do. That is the foundation of grit, is the follow through to whatever it is that you need to do to reach that big goal in the long term.
Yeah, that last point is, I think when nothing else is left and your blood dry, that's the one thing left right there in front of your face. It's like, are you going to keep going? Right? Because, again, like everyone that you're whatever and everything in your environment that seems like this just ain't right now, every indication to stop. Again, when you want to do something that's completely unfathomable, it ain't going to happen without making mistakes. It ain't going to happen without producing some hurt. It ain't going to happen without everything around you questioning you, but you can absolutely take it there, and then you can make it better long term as well because you were able to do what you wanted to do, whatever it was. I don't want to get oddly specific because this isn't about me. This isn't about my personal path. It's about your personal path. It's about what exactly are you looking to do with your life that is larger than life, And I could ask the question, what's holding you back? And we could get into tips and a process, but at the end of the day, and I'm sorry to say it, but the only thing left to look at is just look at yourself inside and realize like why did you not follow through with it? What were you afraid of? Because if you're so afraid of it, at the end, you're just going to regret the fact you didn't do it. You're going to forget about the things you could have done better or whatever you were afraid of. You're just going to remember that you didn't do it. And that's a tough thing to accept and just move on from. Moving on to our question and answer segment for today. For you, Danny. So I'm female, mid-40s, and have lost about 4 stone from my biggest weight. I've been training fairly consistently for around 1.5 years and seeing good results. Mainly resistance, weights, and some HIIT. I've gone from a double D bra cup size down to a small B and have gained pectoral muscle. Things aren't looking in great shape. There's no way at my age they are suddenly finding more elasticity and firming up as this muscle continues to grow. I think it's going to look worse. Anyone at all, any suggestions? I'm literally cringing writing this.
Okay, so I think that this is a hot button for a lot of ladies that lose weight, is that your boobs are going to get smaller. They might not disappear completely, although they might largely disappear. But breasts, yes, they have breast tissue like deep inside, but most of what breasts are is fat. So when you lose fat, again, since we can't spot treat where we lose fat from, like we can't say, oh, I would just like to lose it from my waist or my hips or whatever. It's going to come off of everywhere. And for whatever reason, the boobs always seem to be the first part of the body to just offer themselves up as a sacrifice to the fat loss gods. It's part of the process of getting fitter and healthier, is that your boobs are going to lose fat. But since our skin doesn't just snap back, especially after a certain age, a lot of times there's some sagging that happens, and it is really, really tough for a lot of women. So unfortunately, there is nothing that you can do about this in the gym or with your diet. Yes, you can continue to build up pectoral muscle, your chest muscles, and that will fill it out a little bit, but in a very different way than it did before. The other thing you can do is really learn to embrace your smaller chest. After losing 90 pounds, I also was a triple D cup at one point, and now I like barely fill out a B cup, as many commenters on Instagram and Facebook have reminded me in case I forgot. But I kind of like personally, I just like it better. Now, I didn't get there overnight. I just like it better. But I also dealt with lots of, that skin was just empty, basically. And I did eventually get surgery to remove the extra skin, basically, from that area. So there's no more volume in my chest than there was before. But things look a lot higher and tighter, I guess, because of that surgery. So that is an option to get the skin removed. And if you're really into fitness, you might really just like the way that looks by itself. Of course, many women opt to go the implant route as well, and although that's not for me, far be it for me to judge anybody else who decides to go that route. That's absolutely their prerogative to do that. But outside of surgery, there is nothing you can do to make the skin in that area tighter or firmer or fill it back out. I mean, you could check out all of the variety of bras that exist that can give you all kinds of shapes. If you're interested in that too, that certainly exists as well. But surgery is really the only option for that. But you earned that. You earned the physique you're in now, and you should be really, really proud of it. Okay, Giacomo, this one is for you. What is worse, taking sleeping pills or not sleeping? I haven't slept well for 5 months, and it's actually affecting my gains. I have tried everything.
Oh, I'm going to remove my bias here and say take some sleeping pills.
Yep.
Because I'm so stubborn. I don't take any sleeping aids personally, but that's because I'm stubborn.
He is so stubborn.
But to each his own. Everybody has a different approach at what works for them through trial and error. But it's called an aid. Mm-hmm. Just remember that.
Yeah.
So when you do take a sleeping aid of some sort and you're able to get some sleep, then try to figure out what has prevented you from getting good sleep. Mm-hmm. As opposed to just being like, I can sleep better now, so I feel better and everything's going to be okay now. And if I need to do it again, I'll just take another sleeping aid. Because that's not going to help anything. And quite frankly, sleeping aids come with side effects, which is fine because the side effects short term do not negatively impact you long term. And the pros outweigh the cons here. You're getting quality sleep. Like, yeah, you mind? Like, geez, now you can actually think more clearly. But if you don't put in the work and you don't find out what's going on with your sleep hygiene and what's causing disturbances in your life that have nothing to do with your sleep hygiene, you don't find some ways to make it better, you're going to find yourself in the same position over and over again, except worse, because now you're dependent upon a sleep aid that's actually going to cause some long-term, that may very well have some long-term health consequences and not just side effects.
Yeah, I know they said they tried everything, but they didn't say what everything is, so it's hard to say exactly.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to take a look at all the lifestyle factors first. If that doesn't help, go get a sleep study done. What is going on internally? Do you have a sleep apnea that you're not even aware of that you have that's preventing good quality sleep? Are there other things going on while you're asleep? Sleep aids. Sometimes I feel like over-the-counter sleep aids, like Benadryl and stuff like that. I feel like sometimes if you're on a pattern of really crappy sleep, sometimes taking it for like one night can just let you get one decent night of sleep, and it almost kind of resets you a little bit. So sometimes that can be beneficial. I personally don't like taking over-the-counter sleep aids because I always wake up groggy the next day. So it's like, yeah, I got the sleep, but I kind of feel like I didn't. So, but Giacomo's going to kill me, but I have to shout this thing out that I have discovered in the last couple months because it has been so helpful to me. So I have always, my entire life, I have had a hard time falling asleep. Not staying asleep, just falling asleep. Since second grade, I started taking over-the-counter sleep medications in second grade. I was 7 when I started taking nightly Tylenol PM, which it wasn't even just a sleep aid. It was also Tylenol. Don't get me started. Please don't do this to your kids. But I have taken over-the-counter sleep aids, prescription sleep aids. I have gone just many nights in a row not sleeping to just see if I could fix it that way. Over the years, this has gotten way, 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 way better, but still, I still have a hard time falling asleep at night. When I see melatonin supplements, I don't like them generally because they are huge doses. 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, that's way too much for people, for adult humans to be taking, and I don't think people should take that much. But I recently discovered kids' melatonin gummies that have 1 milligram of melatonin in them. 1. And some other stuff like chamomile, lavender, stuff that probably isn't doing much. And I take that, shut off the lights, and I swear to God, I am asleep in like 15 minutes every single night.
Well, some of the over-the-counter stuff is actually really harmful to your health. For one, just because it's over-the-counter and legal without a prescription doesn't exactly mean it's good for you.
Right.
And like anything else, the poison is in the dose, right? Like you can get really, really high and pass out, for example, right? Or you could take something that's super small from like a marijuana plant that can put you to sleep without actually wrecking you or like ruining your sleep. You know what I mean? Or you wind up developing some sort of dependency on it. In a similar vein to the melatonin. The poison is in the dose of whatever it is that you choose to use as a sleep aid. Whether it's a gray area, whether it's something that's legal and over the counter, whether it's something like melatonin, whatever it is. Yeah, so I mean, there's all kinds of ways to help you find out how to get better sleep as you're working on your sleep hygiene and the things that are causing poor sleep. And, sometimes it's just, sometimes there's just something that you're going through that's going to last more than a month. But you have to take a good hard look at whatever it is that you're supplementing with to supplement your stressed out lifestyle or whatever, and remind yourself, like, if that thing that's going to last for a month is probably going to last for like 10 years, there's probably going to be a better solution out there for you while you're correcting your sleep.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. Please feel free to reach out to us at VeganProteins.com for all of your vegan coaching needs. We have our membership, we have our challenges, we have our one-on-one coaching, and the application is right there on the site. Feel free to email us if you have any questions or topics you want covered on the podcast at coach@veganproteins.com. We look forward to hearing from you. My name is Danny.
And I'm Giacomo.
And we will talk to you soon.